send an emoji. I think this is a little bit different. So if anyone knows how to do it, let me know. But otherwise, let's get started. If anybody has any questions about the Zen specifically, and today I guess subtopic of the conversation is Zen being on multi-chains. And so the background of the decision to launch Zen on many different chains was the idea that there's a lot more people out there that are using, for example, Binance and Polygon and various other chains that, and they may not ever come to Ethereum. Also, Ethereum gas prices can go out of control. So allowing people to mint Zen on multiple chains is actually economically better in the sense that you can spend literally micro gas transactions to get your Zen minted. That being the case, there were some questions that came about from the fact that if Zen exists on multiple chains, what about the value of Zen? Will there be a dilution from Zen being available everywhere? So to answer that question is actually kind of complicated, but yet the answer is pretty simple. So even though the Zen contract will exist on multiple chains, the production and the economic forces on different chains are actually different. So for example, on Polygon, you will be able to spend 1,000 times less gas to do the same type of minting action and Zen creation action than you would on Ethereum. So on Polygon, the value of Zen when it comes to trading will likely be at the ratio of 1,000 to 1. Now the question is, who sets that value? So the value will be set specifically by the actual liquidity pools. So SushiSwap has liquidity pools on pretty much all the chains. And people who mint Zen Polygon will be able to sell their Zen or buy Zen from using USDC or the pairs that are created specifically on those chains. On Ethereum, Zen will be completely different. And the cost of Zen will be likely much higher just because the gas is so much higher and the network is quite, it's very much busier than the rest of the chains. So there, the liquidity pools likely will have their own ratio of the dollars to Zen tokens or to Zen crypto. And should there be an exchange between, let's say, Polygon, Binance, and Ethereum, all of those pairs that have value will be taken into account. So in other words, a person who mints a bunch of Zen on Polygon will be able to sell it for USDC and then move that USDC over Stargate. And Stargate is this interchain atomic swap system, which is similar to the sending money with the wire between countries, except it's done in a decentralized manner. So you sell your Zen, and all of it is done under the hood. The user doesn't even see that this is happening. So if you want to trade your freshly minted Zen on Polygon and you want to get Zen on Ethereum, you're actually participating in at least two different pools. One pool is on the Polygon side, and the other pool is on the Ethereum side. The ratios that are linked to the USDC are different where exchange happens. That's how we see that working. Looks like Zen's High Priest has joined. Welcome, my friend. You produced Zenducation hit number 2, which I listened to this morning. I think it's actually even better than Zenducation number 1. So it goes way deep into formulas, and so welcome. Feel free to jump into the conversation and mention anything.
Hello, I just woke up and I saw that there's a multi-chain discussion in Zen Crypto. Good morning, everybody. How are y'all doing?
Good morning. Yes, you're on the Hawaiian time, so it's what is it, 7 a.m.?
Yes, exactly. Just early
Nice.
morning.
Well, hopefully the sun is out.
Yeah, yeah, all good. I need to get a coffee. What? I just turned on the conversation. What are we talking about? Are we talking about the ratios or?
Yeah, so we just did a little bit of an. By the way, there's an echo coming from you, so can, can you mute yourself for just a sec so that there's no echo? Okay, yeah, so with the conversation, or rather an overview, how Zen is launching on multiple chains and how the value of Zen is going to be adjusted based on the economic realities of different chains or economic pressures and inputs. You know, the way that I call them is just inputs. So it's actually a very interesting idea to do it specifically this way, and I feel like this gives us more of an ability to get the this new crypto that's based on first principles out there into the world and get more adoption for it. So I'm super excited about it, and I also feel like it question of Ethereum high gas cost. Specifically, somebody were asking me like, hey, how can you make it fair if Ethereum is so expensive? Well, the reality is that if we do, in which we actually made the decision, we will launch on many different chains. Somebody who is trading on Binance and have a little bit of funds on Binance or Polygon will be able to easily participate and mint Zen for themselves without even less risk than the Ethereum. So over the weekend, the Ethereum gas fees were at least 5 GWei or 6 GWei, which was very, very low. This morning they jumped to 70 and they settled at about 30 to 40 GWei, which is almost 10 times on top of what we expected to see on the weekend. So in Zen contract specifically start to mint, your number of dollars that you would spend would have been like $2, right? And it was about $8. That's just because the Ethereum network got more active. Now, this isn't something that would end up happening on Polygon or on Binance because they have different type. So it actually makes Zen more approachable by people out there and more economically viable to at least to try it. And then should people decide that they want to go back to Ethereum and participate on the Ethereum network, then they already know what to do and they can get their funds and apply it to the new mint process on Ethereum. Now, some people asked whether the global rank of Zen is going to be linked somehow between the chains. That is actually not the case. So the contracts have the same code and they will live on different chains, but the user population on all of those chains is completely different. And also, obviously, the easier it is to mint Zen, the more we expect people to have activity within the protocol. Therefore, there's no way, actually the right way, that activity between Ethereum Zen and Polygon Zen or Binance Zen or Pulse Chain Zen. And we have seen differences in activity, obviously, with the latest Ethereum that Ethereum proof of work or ETH-POW. And so with ETH-POW, the ETHW is, I think it's trading at $10 compared to Ethereum price at $1,300. So we're talking about 13 times the difference on at least Ethereum, right? But it is the same code, just different type of consensus. It's proof of work versus proof of stake. So the expectation is very similar for Zen, is that because the economic inputs are different on different chains, we expect different value creation across those chains. However, it will be possible to send Zen from one chain to the other by using Stargate, and Stargate is essentially it's a link between different SushiSwap liquidity pools. So for that to work, people on every chain should have Zen, should have other stable coins too, and create pools, which they will do anyway because we already see it on the Uniswap on testnets. So we should probably see it in all of the distributed exchanges everywhere. So there, once the liquidity pools are created, what will happen is that the interested participants will be able to swap Ethereum Zen for Polygon Zen and Binance Zen and vice versa. So that's how that's going to work.
Right. So I made the section in Zenducation number 2, where I talk about some of these multi-chain dynamics, and also why we chose Ethereum and why we chose to be multi-chain. And then I bring up this example, which is I try to make it as basic as possible, so new people could enter the discussion too, with these different ratios on these different pairs and all these different parameters that will influence. There's so many factors, and I think one thing that people wonder is if there's so much to separate Zen on different chains. One question that came up, for instance, will there be a lot of arbitrage opportunities, and how will that affect the price of Zen on different chains, since there's so much to separate? There's so many factors to separate the Zen on the different chains.
Yeah, I mean, I would say maybe two new down, so there's no
something that
go ahead. Zensu, you were going with a question.
Just make sure when you talk, you mute your mic. I mean, unmute your mic, and when you're not speaking, just mute your mic, because it'll double back.
Right. Okay. So going back to the Zensu's question on the arbitrage opportunities, I feel like because even though Zen will sound the same and is the same contract and it will live on different chains, there is no arbitrage because you're not arbing the same security. So usually it is possible to arb or do an arbitrage trade on something like USDT or USDC if they're traded at different rates on different chains. Now, the reason why it's possible is because it is going to be the same security, or the same crypto, if you will. And our bots or arbitrage bots will try to buy it on one chain or the other. But that's because the oracles that exist between the chains actually indicate that it is the same instrument. Now, Zen is not going to be the same instrument, so you will not be able to mint cheap Zen on Binance or Polygon and then sell it on Ethereum. That's not how it works. The way that it will work is that it will hit at least two pools. So one liquidity pool will be on Polygon, where you trade Zen for USDC, and it's going to be, let's say, 1,000 to 1 ratio. And then the USDC actually will be transmitted to the other chain, and you'll purchase Zen there for whatever USDC you have converted. So we have seen USDC, for example, and USDT on ETHPOW chain to be microscopically small. Now that's because it was a fork of Ethereum, and you cannot double economic energy just by copying it. So if I had $1 million of USDT or USDT on Ethereum all of a sudden it's forked, it doesn't mean that I have $2 million all of a sudden, unless there is some sort of community support behind the chain. So that's how the genuine arbitrage works. It works in case if both chains accept the same token or the same crypto and give it the same type of value, which is not what's going to happen here. So we will have Zen small b for Binance and Zen small p for Polygon or M for Matic, whatever, right? And just regular for Ethereum. That being the case, even if the token names were the same, they would still be different. So there is no arbitrage that's really possible. There is, however, possible the situation where you learn about Zen on a different chain and then come to Ethereum.
Przed oddaniem pierwszego miejsca, chyba że dołoży coś na mundialu.
Okay, I just muted somebody. Somebody turned on their TV. Any other questions? Zensu, feel free to chime in, or anybody else who's in the chat. We have 16 participants right now.
I have a question.
Please, Jim. Jim Rat.
So basically what you're saying is because of the timing of a lot of this has to do with timing, right? Like Zen Crypto didn't come out 3 years ago. Okay. It's coming out when it comes out, whenever that is exactly, I don't know. But, so the valuation of zero is kind of what people like, just like some of you guys know Pulse Chain, like whether or not there's been sacrifice money, anything of that nature, it doesn't really matter because the valuation starting at zero. And then it's fair game when it does that. It's not just a tax implication. It's a fair way to do it because you're right. I had a bunch of USDC that forked over. If I made all that money forked over, then the whole system wouldn't work. Nothing would work. I would just being able to buy no liquidity assets with a bunch of free money that I just forked over. That doesn't make any sense. So really what's happening is like, it's more like a fair distribution. And this kind of adds on to that, the Zen, where it's kind of like, oh, cool. So Zen can only be minted so fast. So Zen can only be, so I'm curious that if a fork happened, when it happened, does it either die or go to parity, Jack? That's pretty much my question. Like, is it just community consensus 101?
So are you speaking specifically about a fork situation or a launch?
Zen Crypto had a valuation of $1 billion in a year or something. Let's say whatever, a normal number, a small number. Then what happens when Hex had a very large valuation and then there was a fork and now everyone that had money in the thing is like, oh no, what's going to happen to my original money? Is it going to get diluted? And that's what I'm talking. So let's say Zen's already out. It's already functioning. It's already on those 4 chains at the same valuation, I would assume. And then you have to basically, is it community consensus whether another good fork comes out? Is it up to the community just as a general ethos? Because that's kind of how you decide things?
Actually, no. So in case of, if you go back to Hex, for example, because it's a good example to discuss, given that it already happened. So we had ETHPOW and the ETHW forks occur. And even if we don't talk about Hex specifically and we just talk about the stable coins, like why aren't the stable coins have the same value? So it has nothing to do with the community or anything. Like the community cannot simply give the value to something that's a copy of a copy, but maybe of ETH Fair it is, like who knows. So maybe they copied ETHPOW. I'm not actually certain. So the point I'm making is that
the same block height. Just FYI, just so people know, they actually launched. They had the same block ID, launched at the same block height. So it is an interesting point because I was just learning that myself.
Okay, that means that they have launched from the same snapshot of Ethereum. They probably talk to each other and saying, "Hey, we're doing those 2 different things, so let's just launch 2 more chains." So the value of Hex on ETHPOW is tiny, isn't it? Like 2 zeros and like 5 or something, I forget. It's something small, like compared to USDC, where it costs, I think, 3 cents right now on Ethereum. So why doesn't it cost the same, right? It doesn't cost the same because it's a copy of something that existed before, and the economic energy of the new chain is simply not there. So
yeah, but what happens, if everyone wanted USDC to work out for whatever reason, they could pin that up in 25 minutes. But nobody wants that to happen because it doesn't make sense. So really what needs to happen for all these chains is native stablecoin action of some sort, right? Like you have to have a native stablecoin because unless you want to use someone else's liquidity that's already tied into 150 things, like these things are tied into Celsius, these things are tied into Terra Luna. So it's really important, like these other chains that come up, what's your thoughts on that too? Native stablecoins in general, because I just think in my head, the forks, like I knew beforehand that USDC would have no value and that it would dwindle down to zero until no one used it. But at the same time, in my head, I said, Hex is a different story because you can earn yield and there's only a certain supply. And so it kind of like people start doing that, you know how the like the speculation
Sure.
value, I guess, is different. So I'm curious to, like, I think most of the advanced people kind of knew, like, yeah, you can't bridge over a real one for one USDC copy. What do you think about native stable coins? How important is that as far as a chain that you would adoption was and all the stuff?
Okay, well, let's approach it from this one other perspective. What does give anything value, right? That is the question. What gives anything value is the demand from the buyers. So in case of stable coins, somebody would actually have to trade some sort of other economic energy for a stable coin and give it value. If there is no buyers on a new chain of a stable coin, then the stable coin is not worth $1, right? It's worth something really, really, really tiny based on the demand. Now, there exists situations where a chain is forked and there's so much demand on that chain that an instrument like Zen or Hex that's been copied over actually rises in price as measured by the inflow of funds and low liquidity. So it may have a different ratio. Like, for example, Hex is trading at 3 cents on Ethereum, but it can all of a sudden jump to 10 cents in real US dollars on ETHPOW, just because a lot of people jumping in at the same time, and there's an auction, there's bidding for the price, and this price is going up. Now, it doesn't actually mean that you can take the same Hex on ETHPOW and move it to Ethereum for the same price. That may not be the case at all. In fact, it may jump to 10 cents and then it will crash down to 2 zeros and 1 just as fast. And so the stability in the value is dictated by the activity in the economic energies, as well as the liquidity in pool sizes of a variety of chains. So that is what gives anything value. So you can say, yes, the community is what gives anything, the worthiness or the value. So, but most often, because people do know that certain things are speculating and they're pumping, like something that quadruples within a day, unlikely to stay at the quadruple level. Will likely settle on
somebody with a large amount of the money. This is where centralized ownership has its benefit, but it's not like a benefit for like long-term benefit. I guess the only benefit would be to the people that got in before the centralized owners started making whatever moves they want. And that's where my head's kind of at. Like, that's where I get confused. And it's not confused like money-wise. I really don't care. But it's more
okay, so
you know what I mean? Like, they can manually do whatever they want with the liquidity pools because they have such a large portion and such a large economic, mass in general compared to the average person.
That is actually not true. So
that's just my speculation. Sorry, for everyone that's listening, I'm just a random dude that's learning about this shit. Like, I'm just asking questions.
Okay. Well, I think we're all learning here. So great question. So, but let's dispel the myth of the control of economic energy. When somebody pre-mints a coin and they own 90% of it, it doesn't mean that they can pump it. The only thing that means is that they can sell it, or they can provide liquidity by pairing it with another coin like Ethereum or USDC. If you have a lot of inexpensive coin in your wallet, like let's say 90% of it, it doesn't mean that you can control the price at all. It just means that you can technically have a choice to sell it when it's rallying and provide the buying opportunity for the newcomers. But when it comes to keeping it up, I don't think that's a possibility, because you're going to have to put up the other side of the pair, like specifically USDT, USDC. So to prop it up, you actually have to be a buyer of the coins out there to keep the value higher. Because having the
person buys crypto, like, you're so right though. That actually answer was amazing, because it is so true though. You can only do so much. You can play it. It's like game, but at the end of the day, sustainability is what I want. I want sustainability. I want something that's going to, if I could tell someone and I knew for maybe pretty certain it would be around in a decade, that would be incredible. Especially so. Thank you for answering my question. You could keep on that. I'm just going to listen for a little while.
Sure. Well, I think your point on sustainability is totally valid. Sustainability comes from the size of the community and how vibrant the community is, like the people who are actually participating. We're designing our crypto to.
Somebody's got their mic unmuted.
Yeah, hold on. I found them. Boom. So we designed our protocol to be not only sustainable, but to attract as many people as possible across all of the chains. So if within a year or within 2 years, we become top 5, top 3 crypto on the planet, then the value will be not only there, but it's also going to be relatively stable in the sense that there are so many people are participating. Then anytime there is a chance where the price is dropping or the price is rallying, the dropping will be purchased by the newcomers, just because the larger the network is of the holders, the more people are engaging. So it's the network effect that I'm describing. And Zen protocol has built in the reward mechanism for inviting people into minting more Zen. So minting more Zen, which is free, you just pay gas, seems like, how can it create value? Seems like an oxymoron. The value is actually created from the fact that once everybody join, then the time difficulty, creating less and less mintable supply over time, is what will make people more inclined to buy it rather than spending longer and longer time to mint. So that is the story behind the value, the way that I see it. So we have disconnected the social engagement protocol that allows people to be rewarded by bringing more people into the network from the difficulty that is time-based.
And it does basically, you're saying as well, it doesn't give anyone really the opportunity to become a centralized owner because of you know what I mean? Like, it's just.
So if Sam from FTX decides to buy a bunch of Zens, he can certainly afford to do it. So he can spend $1 billion buying all of the available Zen from all of the available pools. Now, depends how quickly he buys it. If he buys it over a week, he will still end up being outcompeted by all of the newcomers and old timers who are minting Zen and creating more and more of a supply. So he will be technically diluted, and he'll have to buy continuously over the year to be the largest holder. But then it doesn't really make sense for him to be the largest holder, even if he's a billionaire, simply because the network is meant to grow. The only time for anybody to really make sense to become a whale, so to speak, is after the 8-year period, when Zen inflation is at 2%. So right now, at launch, inflation is going to be huge. But in about 8 years, that is where the somebody who wants to buy a lot of cryptocurrency, Zen cryptocurrency, will be able to accumulate as much as they want, and they will not be as diluted by the other participants of the minting process, because the mint is going to be tiny, and any sort of inflation is pegged to 2%. So that's where. I mean, if there's any whales out there, this is the good time to get in. Just wait 8 years. Or you're welcome into the Zen community.
I'll be right in my prime, Jack. I'll be right in my prime.
Yes, you will be. I think we all will be going to be.
I can't wait. I'm excited. I love that you thought about this. Like, I know it's all a calculation, but you've actually looked into it. Obviously, it's nice to feel reassured that the person's paying attention to the 8, 10, 20, 30-year time frame, because we just don't see a lot of that. We don't see a lot of that, whether they're doing it or not. Some people might be, but they don't talk about it. It's not marketed. It's not sexy, but it is what's not in the system. This is what we're missing. Like, I think 40% of the Bitcoin is in 2,000 wallets. Like, that's centralized, and that's right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think
Imrat is trying to say. Sorry. Is that the founder of Hex, since we were talking about it, is that when he initially got in, he just had to press a button on his keyboard and minted BTC. So it's what I think what Jack is trying to do is the same thing that makes it fair for everybody. Is that correct?
That is exactly right. I also was mining Bitcoin in 2011, and it was just as easy as it was for Richard, or as it was for anybody else.
Didn't you dump it on his head?
I think I sold it to him at $30.
Oh,
and
yeah, he did.
You put him in hell for the next year.
Listen, at the end of the trade, we were both unhappy.
That's true. That's true. Very true. Yes.
So, but to go back to the Mr. Modern Simplicity, who just brought up a point, we're trying to fairly launch the crypto protocol that is similar to how Bitcoin was launched. The problem with Bitcoin back then is that nobody knew what crypto was. Like literally 0.00001% of world's population understood what they can do with crypto. Today, we live in a different world. And to take advantage of that is to gather the momentum within the community, launch the immutable smart contract without admin keys, open source with zero supply and zero value, and start everybody on the same equal footing. That is more powerful than just some individuals getting into Bitcoin and mining it for themselves without knowing what will happen next. We kind of know what happens with popular cryptocurrencies. They get popular, they go up, the value is created by the community. So that is where where our ethos is and where our goals are.
Do you like any of the work that anyone's doing in the space at the moment? Obviously, you're building on Ethereum, so that would be maybe we don't have to talk about Vitalik so much, but in general, in the more nuanced pockets of decentralized stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So until recently, I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, not on Ethereum, right? On Pulse Chain, there's testnet on Pulse Chain. There's, like you said, Polygon and BSC. Not on Ethereum.
We're on BSC testnet. We're on Polygon. We're on Pulse, obviously. And I think once we pass the audit, we're going to launch on ETHPOW as well, just because there's so much action there and people are excited that they have free money to play with, which is their forked money. So we're definitely going to be on ETHPOW.
Fair, bro. Come on, bro.
It's fair? I heard it doesn't work. I heard it's like barely.
Well, how does it not work? Well, we'll talk about that later. I actually obviously have to do more research myself on that. But
somebody said that their transactions
are using that stuff over there like every day, and they're definitely enjoying it. But it's generally just the Uniswap pairs over there. There's not as much going on.
Okay, well, I mean, like, listen, the Zen protocol was meant to be chain agnostic if it's an Ethereum compatible chain. So for sure. There's no reason not to give the opportunity for people to play with Zen on all the chains that they want. I just don't see the downside because either way, I mean, their communities are forming all across the crypto universe, gravitating towards interesting things like those forks. And so people who are playing with those forks, if we give them a chance to play with this new protocol, then, why not? We all win. Our Ethereum community will also win just because we will be exposing the newcomers to, let's say, ETHPOW, that Zen exists and it's interesting and there's so many things you can do with it. So I don't see any sort of...
My request is that you look into doing it on ETHFair, and if you think that's a good idea, I definitely would provide liquidity and mint over there myself.
Yeah, you should provide mintability. So,
well, if you're minting, whatever's beneficial.
Yes.
I just like to do I like to exit and enter positions and do it properly the way it was designed. I really do. I really think it's the better way to do things personally, just as a practice.
Yeah. For sure.
How you doing?
How you doing?
We talked yesterday. Just a quick question in terms of how how do you think the value of Zen is going to come? The question is because, for example, Bitcoin, it started to get value when they did the first transaction. So is Zen is going to get value? Is that because of the transactions? Because of people going to build on it? Is because, I mean, how you think that it's going to be, going to start to get value in the future?
Sure. So that is a very common question. And I used to think it was difficult to answer, but in reality, it's pretty simple to answer that question. So what we think is going to happen is as the community, Zen community grows, there will be protocols designed on top of Zen. So there will be utility, like specifically Zen could be used for NFTs, could be used for games, could be used for pretty much anything you want. Introducing crypto into the world, like for example, you meet a friend and they don't have any crypto and you have 1 million Zen, you're going to feel like, hey, you just minted that amount of Zen and you can give them 10,000 or 1,000 or 500,000, doesn't matter what. So you will be naturally sharing and engaging people out there and giving them the crypto that has low risk. So community growth is where the value is. And also, if you make this thought experiment and imagine that in a couple of years, Zen is used by 100 million people in the world, which is a possibility just because of the low barrier to entry. Anybody else who wants to accept crypto as payment will be looking for the most available crypto. Similarly to how Tesla is accepting Doge, just because a lot of people hold it and it's relatively easy to acquire, they find that it is make economic sense to accept crypto that has the biggest population behind it. And when I say population, I mean the community size. So if we are at 100 million people, anybody who is choosing which crypto to accept, we're going to be one of the top cryptos that people will likely gravitate towards accepting as a token of exchange for any sort of service or value.
Right. Okay.
There's also the time factor, right? So if you really want Zen today and don't want to wait, then there will be buying pressure from that fact as well.
That's exactly right. So you have a choice. You can buy it on Uniswap or any sort of DEX where we'll have liquidity, or you can mint. Now, you can mint for 100 days or 1 day. It doesn't matter how many days. Let's say 100 days. In 100 days, it is possible to get, I think, roughly estimating about 4 million Zen. Now, you could do that, but you have to wait for at least 3 months and 10 days. Now, during the time, the value appreciation of Zen may actually move higher just because there's more people joining, there's buying pressure. And so you're thinking, okay, do I run what I would call a temporal arbitrage between waiting for the Zen to appear in my wallet, or do I want it in my wallet right now and I will pay 5 times more the gas price than I otherwise would pay, plus waiting of that 100 days time to get it later. So you can buy the future today by paying more for it. So that's where the game mechanics and game theory actually come into play, is that you can accelerate the Zen creation. I mean, not creation, but you can accelerate acquisition of Zen, not through the mint, but simply through instant buying.
This is brilliant.
I had a question, Jack.
Genius.
Go ahead with the question. Is it AR Zen 313? Go ahead.
Yes. First off, I'd like to thank you for coming up with this project and giving a fair opportunity to all the normies out there. I feel like this project is going to become the new store of value, and it's going to give a fair opportunity for everyone to be able to participate in this project, and I just want to thank you. The question that I had was, why 8 years for the inflation to become more difficult, and not sooner or later?
So on the question of inflation and why it is exactly 8 years. So 8 years is a range when inflation becomes minimal. Now, 8 years is a long enough time for the mass adoption to occur. Generally, the S-curve of an adoption, and you can Google it what S-curve means, happens within the first 2 years. So within the first 2 years, we're likely going to have the most intense growth. The growth or slowing down of inflation actually happens every day. So in the Zen minting formula, we have this amplifier that we call AMP. The AMP is 3,000, or that's just a natural number. It's an integer. Every day, we deduct 1 from it. So on the day of launch, it's 3,000. If you're minting on the day of launch, that means your multiplier is 3,000 exactly. Every day, it gets smaller by 1. So the next day, it's 2,999. In a year, it's going to be roughly 2650, let's say, roughly 2650. And you would have, if you're late to the project and you come to mint Zen a year after, you're actually minting about 10% less every day than you otherwise would if you were to join the first year. If you come 4 years later, then the 3,000 roughly will become 1,500 because 1,500 days has passed. And now for every day, you're minting 1/2 of what you would otherwise would be getting if you were to join the first year or the first month. And then obviously by the year 6, it's about 70% less. And then by the year 8, it's 99.99% less. So it almost doesn't make sense to mint anymore. It makes sense to stake and to buy. But it is still possible to mint maybe at the rate of 10 Zen per day. So 10 Zen per day, compared to what we're seeing today, you just need to multiply 10 by 3,000, right? So 30,000 mintable today per day versus 10 at the end after 8 years is a significant difference. And so knowing that and understanding that this is all coming down to, the faucet will be turned off and there will be a little drip of Zen tokens after the 8-year period, will actually likely will have the game theory aspects of, and the way that the hexagons would say it, pumpamentals to jump into the protocol to mint, or simply just to buy it and lock in the ability to buy it at low prices.
Hi Jack, how goes? Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Hello. So, in your opinion, do you think, obviously just now you're speaking to all those guys, all the really, really early adopters, do you think the dispersal of value over the separate chains, i.e. that instead of having concentrated value in minting terms and gas terms on one chain, so for example, if I had $500 a month to mint just now, instead of putting it all on ETH, obviously, because I don't know where the biggest success for Zen is going to come, I'm probably going to separate that value over the chains. Do you think that's going to be a negative or a positive thing? And then a second question is, do you see after the 8-year period, possibly when all the chains kind of have ended that minting phase, that then you may actually at that point start to see parity of value over all the chains?
An excellent question. So to answer the first part is that let's imagine that you're the only person with $500 in Polygon and you're minting Zen. And because Polygon is about 1,000 times, well, actually it's not 1,000 times, it's more like about 500 times cheaper to mint anything or to do anything. Essentially, the gas price on Polygon is tiny. So 500 times less, roughly, than Ethereum. So let's say that you have $500 and you have a choice. You can go to Polygon or you can go to Ethereum. So if you go to Polygon, one could assume that your $500 will create 500 times more Zen than you otherwise would do it on Ethereum. Now, what does it mean for the dilution and the price and everything, right? So first, your Polygon Zen will stay on Polygon. You can't possibly just dump it on Ethereum network and expect people to trade their dollars for your Zen that you created cheaply. So that's kind of like a walled garden or its own sandbox, if you will. And so the only option for you is to, should you decide to convert it to dollars somehow or stable coins, you would have to engage with the liquidity pools within the Polygon network itself. Afterwards, you can move your profits. Let's say it's, you made $2,000, you can move it to Ethereum and do whatever you want there. You can buy more Zen on Ethereum if it's available. So I don't see the type of an issue where a person who has a lot of Zen on Polygon actually ends up flooding the network on Ethereum with it, just because the networks they're compatible on the code base, but they're not compatible on the economic value. There's no any sort of pegging between them, except the stable coins, because both networks agree that stable coins are worth the same, but everything else is worth different. So, and obviously you can see, you can open up the trading pairs, even on Uniswap, you're going to see that like everything looks different. Your second part of the question is actually interesting, and I haven't thought about it, but you said something like where when the inflation is the lowest after 8 years, will there be parity? So I think there might be parity, just simply because there is really no minting anymore. There's some minimal minting, but most of the Zen is purchased by using stable coins, for example, because people bring their economic energy from fiat into stable or some other way. But ultimately, it is the stable pairs that are most frequently used to buy new assets. So assuming everything is equal and we launch the Zen smart contracts everywhere at the same time, that they will all technically end their minting after 8 years or become a drip in the faucet, like so to speak. So then for you to realize the value across the chains or to buy Zen, you have to spend your stable coins. So you will be pegged to the stable coin and not to the minting process, right? You see what I mean? So the minting is not there anymore, so it's not going to affect the price in any way. So the liquidity really can only be connected to USDC or USDT. That being said, if the community is unified, which I think we will be across all the chains, the parity will be there. But until then, we have 8 years of disparity, like so to speak.
Okay, thank you. That was a great answer.
Awesome, Jack. Before you ask, I just want to know, Jack, is this still being recorded anywhere? Because I know this is like valuable information. Because I know Jim Rat's not recording anymore. Is there anyone else recording it?
I am recording it. It's okay, perfect. Recording is on. So once we're done, I'll put it on YouTube on my channel, Jack Levin Official. I think that's the channel.
Thanks for everything.
Sure.
Moomin, do you have a follow-up on that, Moomin Man?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say thank you for the answer. It was a great answer. Obviously, you've seen from some of my questions, I was kind of struggling with the how value would move between the networks. I think a lot of the problem came from me is because I'm working on a project which is a much smaller scale than, for example, you. I'm not Jack Levine, so I don't have the perhaps the space to be as ambitious as you are. And when we were looking at doing cross-chain activity with Stargate, for example, the question came up of how does value get diluted and how it gets diluted by it being available in the different chains and how you make it available, whether it's connected whether it is connected, etc., all these kind of things. And I find all these questions kind of fascinating. But I think obviously, because you're in a position to do something at scale, I think it really can work well, and I love it. And I also think that within the next, it's great that you're diving in now on the cross chain, because I truly see that within 2 to 3 years, if an asset is not available cross chain, it's going to be out of the game.
Right, and for sure. And I think the decision to do a multi-chain launch really needs to happen timely, because we want the inflation and the disinflationary force to be accounted within the same time frame. Like, in other words, launching, like, think about it this way: if we were to launch on Ethereum and the year has passed, now we're like, oh, this is great, we're going to launch on Polygon. Now, if we launch the same contract on Polygon, the tokenomics reset to day one, which gives, I wouldn't say it's an unfair advantage, but it would be very confusing for people to not only spend less gas, but also mint more Zen, because the time clock has reset to back to the beginning for their chain, right? So this is something that we want to avoid. And so when we launch after an audit, we're likely going to launch on the same chains as close as we can, so that we can start the timer for the 8-year inflation disappearance at the same time in synchronicity.
Thank you. That makes sense. Thank you very much.
Jack, I had another question regarding that.
Yeah.
So, is it true that Zen will be launching on Pulse Chain?
I think it's unavoidable, because Pulse Chain will get copies of the Ethereum blockchain.
Okay, that's where I had a little doubt there, because if we're getting copies on Pulse Chain, then how would that all work out if based on what you just mentioned right now, as far as the time factor?
Yeah, so this is actually kind of interesting. So let's say that we have launched Zen October 1st. It's not the set date yet, because we don't know exactly when audit is going to come through. But let's say it's October 1st, and let's say Pulse Chain copies everything and synchronizes the clock, but they would have launched, let's say, 9 months from now. So what does it mean for the contract? Well, it means that the times are the clock is still in sync, because the block height is the same everywhere. And so the only thing that's different is that the gas structure has changed. So the lower gas will actually make Pulse Chain Zen less valuable versus USDC or USDT or any other stablecoin. Just because you have doubled the coin, it doesn't mean that you have doubled the value. So, but moving forward, it will settle on some sort of proper rate, whatever the traders want to do. But in terms of being in sync, it should be in sync, because they're not relaunching all of the tokens, they're just copying the state. And so even if it's launches 9 months from now and we launch in a couple of weeks or in a week, then everyone who minted within Zen, all the records within the blockchain are exact equivalent on Pulse Chain, which actually makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
I'm struggling a little bit to understand this arbitration, because, for example, if I produce apples, oranges in Spain, where the cost of production is very low, then I export them to UK, then I get much more on my oranges. And what you say is that if I produce Zen on Pulse Chain, when I spend a little bit, then if I export it to Ethereum, then I get very little for it. So this is the contrary of what's in real life, and I'm
Okay.
wondering how it is.
Okay, so I have an answer for that. So you're comparing apples, which is a type of a fruit that people agree that has the same value, or at least the caloric value. So it's similar, right? Now with cryptocurrency, this is not the case at all. So we cannot equate Zen produced across different chains and say that this is the same fruit produced across different countries, because it's not the same thing at all. Like, it doesn't have the same properties, because the production of Zen on Pulse chain is subject to the number of people multiplied by or divided by the cost of gas. And overall enthusiasm of the community, like, is also matters, because some people may be more active on Pulse chain because they feel like they lose less in gas. So there's more people create more wallets and this and that, right? But it's not the same as saying that Zen is an apple, which is the same apple elsewhere. It is completely different, because the mint or the creation of that cryptocurrency has been done from literally different type of inputs. It has similar protocol, obviously, and same ethos in terms of no pre-mine, no pre-mint, was zero in the beginning, and in the founding team has nothing. But it's not actually the same valuable thing like apples would be. So like apple, you give it to anybody, they can eat it. Right? With Zen, it's completely different. So it wouldn't be the fair comparison.
Okay, and another thing I wanted to ask really fast is, how is it possible that a contract on BSC has the same number that on Ethereum?
When you say contract, you mean the stablecoin USDC?
The smart contract. It has the same.
Our smart contract, or
yeah.
How's it possible it's the same? Well, the code is the same. So we put the same code everywhere, but the inputs are different. So the programming, the execution part is similar, but the inputs, such as the number of people, their activity, and the cost of gas, is completely different. And also the frequency. So Polygon can do, I think, maybe 100 to 200, 300 transactions per second. I'm not sure. But it is definitely higher than Ethereum. Ethereum can do 15. So anytime you go over 15, you actually push the gas price higher. So it's a completely different flavor. So, but the contract exists. I mean, it's what we do is we take the same source code and we deploy it on different chains. So it's an exact copy. The only thing is, like, it has a different interaction with the community. So that's how that works.
No, I was asking about the smart contract number. Yeah, I'm struggling to understand how is it possible that the same smart contract number is on the different chains. It should have a different number.
When you say a number, you actually mean address, correct? You mean address.
Yes.
Okay, so there's two ways to do it. The contract deployer has an address to begin with. Like, their wallet address is the origin transaction that actually deploys the code. When the code is deployed, it is compiled into a binary representation. If the binary representation hash is the same, and the transaction is originated from the same wallet address, then the resulting contract address is going to be the same value, like literally the same. So, but it actually doesn't mean anything. That just means that the sequence of letters and numbers representing the contract on Polygon, in Ethereum, and Pulse chain happens to be the same. But that's where the similarities end. It doesn't actually mean that they somehow linked together. Now, we haven't decided that that's going to do it. it is quite possible that we will have different addresses for the same contract, same Zen contract on different chains. Now, that doesn't change the fact that we are the origin and the creators of the same contract, and we're pushing the same code. We can simply confirm by loading the source code into the corresponding Etherscan or Polygon Explorer, and anybody who is curious, they can look at the source code and they can see that it is exactly the same source code. And those will have a green check mark showing that the bytecode or the binary code that is compiled from the Solidity code is actually corresponds to the same source code. So that is the only thing that matters. The contract addresses that they belong to do not matter at all.
I think.
And another question.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Go ahead, Stardust.
What's your strategy? Minting strategy?
My minting strategy? I don't have one, actually. I think what I want to do is I want to see what people are doing. There's really no time pressure for me to start minting because I understand that I definitely do want to mint, but I don't want to drive the Ethereum prices high, the gas prices higher, just by thinking that somehow getting a lowest rank possible, which is the best outcome, is going to make that much difference to me personally. And I don't want to drive the prices for anyone else. I don't think I will, but certainly I'm thinking that the time pressure is not as intense as anybody think. Now, generally, the time pressure comes from this sort of historical reasons where people are launching cryptos and they have limited supply, people are on white lists, and so they rush in to get it and they want to lock in something, right? In this particular case, the supply is not limited. There's no any sort of alpha launch, and there's no lists that you need to participate in to get in on it early. Neither there's any sort of economic energy that needs to be sacrificed. That being the case, if you are participating within first year, you're pretty much early regardless, right? Especially if you're going to participate for the next 8 years. So, and that's true for pretty much all crypto out there. So I would say my strategy is just to take a look and see what's happening, and then obviously join in, because I do want to join in. I love this concept. Obviously, I thought about it for a while, and so it makes no sense for me just to ignore it completely, not participate with Mint. Now, I may actually end up buying a little bit of it on Uniswap too, just to see if it works well. So that's my plan.
I mean, if you study the Mint formula, which is basically the foundation, the heart of the machine, as I like to say it, you really see, and you can play with the calculator as well, but you really see how the AMP and the EAA and the time dependent, the maturity date, the T, really affects your mint. So if you mint 1 day versus 100 days, you will really see a huge difference. So the point here is you're super incentivized to prolong your mint, your maturity date. And DVNB has made a lot of different wallet strategies, by the way. We will probably have a AMA with him. I will announce it today sometime when I know when we can have it, probably tomorrow. So if you want to learn how to optimize your strategies, he has a lot of different thoughts on that. So that will be interesting. I think Gunin also wanted to. Gunin, do you want to say something, my man?
Yeah, I had a question. Nice talking to you again, Jack.
Yeah, hey Gunin, what's up?
So, just a couple of questions. It seemed like you said you've been thinking about this for a long time, this concept. Knowing how fast you guys are working, what's the hiring process look like when you're trying to look for these devs, and then you tell yourself, I trust these guys to to work on to build this idea?
Okay, good question. So actually, I haven't hired anybody new. All of the people that are participating in the design and the creation, I knew them for many years. So we're talking about like 5, 6, 12 plus years. So those guys that worked with me on my previous startups, they're all, still there. So we know how everyone works in terms of what to expect, what not to expect. And so I guess we work well together. But also, I would argue that this contract is so simple. It's only 400 lines of code. It doesn't require a lot of development. So comparatively to Hex has 4,000 lines of code. And so it's 10 times larger in terms of its business logic. And its business logic is a lot more complicated. Zen is a lot more simple because we mostly did away with all of the sort of original address participation because, like, for example, Hex creates their mint from the APY by linking the total number of Hex coins floating around and then taking 3.69% from that. So we don't even have that. We have simplified it to the T, I guess, where the staking process, for example, is a 20% flat non-compounding rate. Very simple to compute. It's like maybe 10 lines of code. So a lot of it is not the code, it's the idea. And I have recently just watched this 1 minute of 1 minute of Inception, and there the Cobb, I guess, Leonardo DiCaprio character, he says, "What is the most viral thing out there in the world? It's not the virus, it's not bacteria, it's the idea. So if the idea is well formed and given to the world, and it resonates with the rest of the humanity, then it becomes the most powerful thing in the world. So it's not the code. It's not anybody who makes the code, but it is literally the idea and the resonance of that idea across the general population." And I firmly believe that crypto is this invention that's a great unifier that connects us all because it has the game mechanics, it has the incentives that can be aligned really well. And it's obviously a worldwide phenomena where anyone can participate and nobody can stop you from participation. So that's what makes it so beautiful. And so I think with Zen launch, what we want to achieve is what I would call immaculate inception, where the purity of that launch is very closely related to the inception of the Bitcoin, where they just wanted to launch something that is, well, I guess Satoshi launched it and then he kind of disappeared. So it was, nobody really knows whether Hal Finney was Satoshi or not. Hal Finney is also dead. So that sort of technology was developed and given to us as an idea, and then it went through an evolutionary cycle with programmable money that Vitalik has created. He was obviously inspired by Bitcoin too, and specifically the self-custody and all of those things. And so I feel like Zen is just the natural progression of the crypto evolution across the human population. So, and we're trying to make it as close as possible to Bitcoin without all of the issues that Bitcoin had.
Hey, Jack.
Thanks for asking it.
Jack, I got a quick question here. I really appreciate what you do and this project. It's really great. I got into Hex a couple of years ago, and I really believe in it. But it's for all of us that are in that project, it's a little bit disheartening to see Richard get on and do his flex and everything like that. And I understand that from a psychological level, it's the marketing of just the attention marketing and the outrage marketing. It's great, but I think just based on your track record and everything like that, just kind of bringing a little bit more integrity to the space. It seems like So I really appreciate that. And I do have a question just as far as the minting goes. And so 100 days is the maximum amount of minting until there are 5,000 users, and then that jumps up to 300 days. Do you think you can explain a little bit more about that? And why would it be better to get in early with 100 as opposed to waiting until there are 5,000 users and just minting for 300 days?
Okay, so it comes down to the protocol design and the economic incentives. Let's say, for the sake of argument, it costs you $2 to start. Clearly, you can spend $2 way early and start minting early. Now, when the term limit ends, you will obviously can use 300 days and so on and so forth. However, we don't exactly know when we're going to hit 5,000. If we hit 5,000 right away, great, that's fine. That actually means that 5,000 people, in the best case, have been minting or set up their mints to mint for at least 100 days. Now, the reason for 100 days to exist to begin with is because after 100 days, we wanted to have liquidity on Uniswap and SushiSwap so that we don't have to wait a year for liquidity to show up in the worst case. In the best case, it's going to be a couple of days. Somebody will just experiment. And especially on the new chains, there's no point to do maximum days. You can just play with it and give yourself 5 days, make a few 100,000 Zen and just start playing with it, right? So it doesn't really make sense to wait until the term limit opens to 300 because, first of all, you will be missing on all of the newcomers coming in, and the rank delta will be big to begin with, simply because the formula looks at the number of participants, and you want the maximum number of participants. The other thing is the early adopter amplifier is there to benefit people who join early. So you have 10% bonus on top of that, right? And then, of course, 3,000 AMP, you want to get as close to 3,000 as possible. And because if you don't, you'll just have to pay a little bit more days in terms of participation to get the same amount of Zen minted. So that's my answer to that. Cool. Hey guys, I'm gonna pause the video just a second to get a charger for my laptop. Otherwise, I'm gonna discharge. So I'll be right back. So hang on for 30 seconds.
Yeah, these I can just add to that. These 5,000 addresses, I think they will go pretty quick. This is actually something that's going to be very interesting to see how we've been trying to spread this community as far as possible before the upcoming launch, and we're about 4,000 or 5,000 in Telegram groups right now. So I'm going to share an Excel spreadsheet on term limits so you can play with different global ranks and see how that affects the maturity dates. And what you will see in this sheet, where you can play around with the numbers, is that the term limit's going to be 100 days, but as soon as we hit 10,000 in global rank, it's going to jack up all the way to 300 days almost, and it's gonna stay there. It's sort of a disinflation curve.
You mean 5,000, right?
If it's at 5,000, by that time it's gonna jack up to 284, and then sort of slowly. When we are at 1 million in global rank, we're gonna be at 400. So I wouldn't put too much emphasis on that, like for your strategies or whatever, because the term I would just choose as a general rule for myself, and this is not financial advice or anything, of course, but you're pretty much incentivized, especially in the beginning, because the inflation is so high, to have as long maturity days as possible, as a general rule. Let me just post it right now for you guys. But as you can see, so my point was, I don't know, so I've been taking part in many different NFT projects and so on and so forth. So this is what I'm interested to see, because in really hyped NFT projects, for instance, if you compare numbers, if they do a mint on 10,000 on a PFP project, it can sell out in seconds, not even a minute. So here, when we have 5,000 people and everyone has 10 wallets, that's 50,000. So it's just funny to see. It doesn't really matter for the overall scope, but it's just fun to see, because we're launching this in a fair way. How fast will we grow the global rank in the beginning? And from the aspect of this storytelling, it would be cool that it was spread out, because so it's not only me and Jack who are claiming our C ranks, but I think you guys will do as well.
Hello, Jack. Could I ask
can
one
say
more
this,
question?
that the day of launch, the gas is going to be crazy.
It could be.
Yeah, so will Zen have an effect on the gas price, Jack?
Impossible to know. It's impossible to know, but I would say there is a possibility, because the Ethereum transactions per second is really only 15 before the gas prices move higher. But I would say one of the strategies, if you're minting with MetaMask, is just to set your gas limit to be low enough. Like, you can say gas limit to 10 Gwei, and that's going to be maybe $3, maybe like $2.50. And so there will be a transaction sent to the Ethereum mainnet or any other chain out there, but the transaction will wait to be executed until the gas prices fall. So that is certainly one way not to move up or not to experience high gas prices. And obviously, like, here's the thing. So a stampede of people trying to get in does not actually make any sort of economic sense for the new minter. It does make sense from a vanity perspective, but if you're overpaying $50 or $60 per transaction, you can certainly do it, and you will help Ethereum by doing it, because half that transaction money will be burned. But I would say the more strategic approach would be just to set the limits on the gas prices.
Hello, Jack. Could I ask one more question, and then I'll give up the floor again?
Go ahead.
So just circling back to something that you said. So obviously, perhaps in, let's say, in 3 years' time, 4 years' time, we have no idea what the dominant EVM will be. And there most certainly will be EVMs that possibly don't even exist today that may be quite dominant in 3 or 4 years' time. So in regards to that, you're saying that you're trying to launch all the contracts at once that exist just now. What's your view on perhaps if 2 or 3 years down the line, more dominant EVMs come on board, and would you be looking to launch on them as well, or are you making yourself a rule that you're just going to do what's available now and stop?
Probably if there's a completely new EVM or a blockchain comes on, I don't see it as being possibly more popular than Ethereum. I think Ethereum will rule them all. But in case if it does happen, we're just going to have to make a decision right there. I mean, we haven't really thought that far enough. I would say anywhere that there is a population of people and the community is large enough, they should have access to Zen on their chain. And one of the ways to make things fair, if it happens within the next 8 years, we can actually deploy a contract there too that is adjusted for the time difference. So in other words, it has tweaked parameters to account for the time that has passed. So technically it's going to be the same thing, but the difficulty will be a little bit higher or something like that. So that is one way to do it.
Okay, thank you very much. That was exactly the answer I wanted. Just one more question as well. Do you again, as you're clearly going for the largest audience possible, are you thinking of developing so that you can operate on other chains that are non-EVM, or you haven't thought that far?
To be honest, we haven't thought that far. However, should we decide to go to Solana, we can literally port our code to Rust, and it's going to work exactly the same way.
Great, thank you.
Cool.
I have another question, just as far as like potential. I know that I tapped into a couple of different streams that you've kind of been on, Jack, and there was a little bit of a talk of NFT potential. Is that something that if you burn a certain amount of Zen with a mint of an NFT, is there value to having any type of NFT for this project in the future?
Well, anything that has marketing potential has value, because marketing is what brings the community together and brings people that are interested. So there are some people out there that are only interested in NFTs. They're not interested in ERC20 tokens at all. So they're not, those worlds, they're kind of connected, but some people just love NFTs, right? So one of the things that we can do with Zen is that we can create another contract that takes in Zen and trades it for an NFT collection, or perhaps it's going to be limited series. Perhaps it will be linked to your C rank, something like that. So certainly we are building in extensions to the Zen protocol to be extendable into other contracts, like ERC 1155 or ERC 721, that will allow the NFT creation, for example, or creation of any sort of DeFi protocols on top of Zen.
Cool.
Yeah, so one of the things that that just came up recently is that we added this feature that we didn't really think about before, but this feature is what we call proof of burn. It's basically an accounting system that allows the contract to record how much Zen you have burned, and it will allow other contracts out there to connect to the Zen contract over an interface that will be able to send the command to burn Zen and then trade the burned Zen for some other crypto, whether it's another Mega Zen or an NFT that says proof of burn, like where I burned 10 million Zen, for example, and you can sell that NFT on OpenSea for $1,000, right? So that's a possibility. So extending Zen's value across the well-known cryptographic universe is certainly is on the agenda, because it will bring more exposure to our efforts at Fair Crypto Foundation.
Quick question as well. Other merch available? Because I don't get me wrong, I love a good cup of coffee and tea, but I wouldn't mind wearing a nice Zen T-shirt or something like that. I know that there's only one product available. I haven't ordered it yet because I have a bunch of coffee mugs. But any merch coming in the pipeline there?
I think what I'm looking for is the interesting word slogans. Something like mint and chill, Zen crypto, or anything out there. So if you guys have any sort of ideas what the T-shirt should say, we can make it available through the merch Shopify account that we have online. So absolutely. I mean, we just need to come up with something catchy and interesting.
Maybe like garden the mind with Zen or something.
You guys spoke at the same time.
I was saying like garden the mind with Zen coin or something like that.
Or enter your Zen space, perhaps, with Zen being starting with an X.
Yeah, regarding this merch, all these things you are saying going to be free to use, because I have a merch store for Hex and Pulse Chain stuff, and I'm getting developed a couple of T-shirts and hoodies with Xen. So I will definitely post the link to the shop. But is it free to use any of the stuff? What's being told here and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, listen, if you have a merch store, by all means, copy our logo and come up with all kinds of different ways to talk about it. I mean, if you want, I mean, I would personally appreciate it, because I think it will just take something off our plate, and we have our hands busy with the pre-launch activities. So by all means, do it and be creative.
Yeah, definitely. Soon, couple of days, should be some first merch available. So yeah, we'll post it in a group, definitely.
All right, and this is a person with the lion head speaking, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the Czechoslovakian group founder. So yeah.
Ahoj, jmenuji se Honze, neumím česky, díky.
Není za čo, yeah. Dzięki.
Are we getting a Czech group set up on Telegram or
well, it
where
is
we
already. I did a Czech and Slovakian group. I posted on Sunday. If I can shill it in, you said it's okay. So we have around 40 members. It's not that much, but they're quite active in it. And I'm also doing some instructional YouTube videos so people can get onboarded as soon as possible. So yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. I want to join that group ASAP.
Okay, I'll drop the link into the group. Cool. And if you would be up for a chat on a YouTube channel, I think I dropped you a message a couple of days ago, and you've seen it, but you haven't responded. So that would be great. We have a very small community, but it would be appreciated if you could give us a shout out or talk to us. So.
Okay, yeah, I just found it. It's just I'm getting so many messages.
I can imagine. So I'm not saying anything. It must be so big.
I'm having a little tough time to figure out who is who and what the people are talking about. So and at the same time, I'm getting all kinds of Asian bots trying to talk to me. So.
That's on daily basis, scams and everything. So we just have
to Yeah, but I found your message, so thanks for bringing it up, and for sure we can talk more offline.
Good. Okay. Perfect. Cheers.
I'm posting a picture now of a design that DVMB made, which is kind of fun on caps. Maybe it's good for you to look at. It says, "Whose man has no cap."
Yin and yang. I love it. Yin and yang. That's great. Yeah, I should go to the store. It looks cool.
Hey guys, I got a question. Is there any way you guys could walk through like the mint process for the day, like what's like how it's going to happen? So if I'm getting this right, so essentially like day one, I would pick a day that I'd want to mint my Zen. Is that kind of how it goes?
If you check the pinned messages, I just posted a video yesterday, and in that video there is a part with a tutorial where it goes you through the whole process, what buttons to click on, etc. And I encourage you to do it now and use Girly on the Girly test network. You can get some free Girly on the faucet, and then you just go through the whole process by claiming C rank and then minting and staking. Just to note there, when you claim your C rank, you will also choose your maturity date, right? So in the testnet version, make sure you just choose 1 day and not 100 days, because if you choose 1 day, you can come back tomorrow and actually do the minting, and then you can stake directly. So I recommend everybody to do it. But the tutorial is pretty self-explanatory. It shows you exactly what to press.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate that. I'll definitely check that video out.
And Brian, you look like you're a new person. Where are you coming from, and how did you learn about Zen?
I'm not necessarily new in the community. I mean, I'm in the Pulse Chain community, Hex community, and just been hearing about it. through different Telegram chats. I've been seeing you a lot on Twitter, actually talking about it. And just one of the groups I was in today, you know, they were talking about the minting and, you know, just so on and so forth. So I just kind of, you know, got super interested in it. Got in the chat a little earlier this morning, just on my way home from work, and I saw you guys on, so I figured I'd listen in.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, we're glad to have you aboard, and yeah, let's do great things. I see that Jack of Hearts possibly joined the chat, and I think he had some questions. So, Jack of Hearts, go ahead and jump into the voice chat if you're interested. If not, we can have other people talk.
Yeah, thanks, sir. I didn't really have any questions that aren't already kind of being addressed. I'm just throwing ideas. I don't know if my ideas are correct or incorrect. They're just thoughts that are popping into my head as I kind of study through what you're creating there. I'm just kind of reaching the point where I'm fully grasping the math behind your project. It's not my favorite topic. The math with letters and symbols kind of tosses me aside.
Okay, awesome. Sounds good. Is anyone else? Hey, Zen2, maybe you can say a few things about the new video that you just produced. Like, what is it all about?
I was just gonna say to Jack of Hearts and Moonin Man and everyone else in the community, really appreciate all these good inputs that you guys are coming with. It makes us reiterate the concept and think of stuff we haven't thought of, and makes it so much stronger. So yeah, we really appreciate all these inputs. This is our intention, to build up this hive mind and to use the knowledge from everyone's experience and all these different chains to figure out how this can solve the ultimate problems that we want to solve. So in my second video here, I go through, it's pretty action-packed. I go through everything with test nets. So if you're wondering, the accumulated data from all the test nets, we go through that. I'll show you how to also participate on the Goerli network. You also have in the in Zenpedia.io. The domain is not really set up, but you can access it through Combot in the Telegram. You have all the data there, so you can go into the test nets on the various different chains. So we go through that. Then we talk about the mint formula, which is really the heart of the machine. And I think what I'm going through in that video is a few that I think people have thought about. And we bring up this example. If you mined Bitcoin 13 years ago, and you told your friend at a competitor mining for the same amount of Bitcoin, and this is an apple and oranges comparison, but if you mine Zen, and you tell your friend about it, he doesn't become a competitor, he becomes an amplifier. So I talk about that in the video a little more extensively. We take the quarks of the mint formula and dissect it into levins. Levins is the smallest unit known to man after quarks. And yeah, then we talk a lot about the community and who we are as a community, because the code is done. The code is done. It's going to be deployed on as many networks as possible, basically. And then it's all about the community, because this is something we want massive adoption with, but it's not going to happen if it's just me and Jack. It needs to be a viral effect, so it needs to make sense for a lot of people, and I think that's why we have grown so fast so far, because we're pretty transparent and we want to do this as fair as possible. so it's all about the community, and then yeah. So, and then on that, we move on to talk about Google, what we can learn from Google. You know, as you know, Jack was number 21 at Google. He built a lot of the foundational infrastructure for how they yeah. I know, Jack, you can express that in better words, exactly what you did there. I knew you crashed Google 6 times. You're probably the only one who did that, but you know the in and outs, both in the hardware, but also in the software, and also in the strategic. So we talk about that and how Google really became the nervous system of the whole financial world, and how they did that. They did that by a few different reasons we're talking in more deep about, but one of them was making it free, and nothing in crypto is free today. So what can we learn if we want maximal adoption by forking the mindset and the strategies that Google had, but then applying that with first principles of crypto? What would that look like? And then we enter into this sort of it comes down to that you can have free education. This is what's going to drive. We teach people here about first principles of crypto, and one of them is self-custody. So we say free education, digital ownership amplified, and what that means is, through our adoption, what we want to teach is people to have self-custody, and then they become an important node in this financial infrastructure, this network of knowledge. So instead of one party owning the whole network this time, we can create a new kind of Google nervous system based on more equal distribution of people owning the whole network through self-custody. And then Jack has, I included that. Jack talks a lot of interesting stuff about price and adoption, this was interesting discussion this time, because we haven't focused so much on price, and it's kind of nice that we don't do it, because the speculation is something that has taken over crypto, and crypto is so much more than price optimization. So how price will be affected on different chains, etc. It's interesting topics that I personally haven't thought so much about with Sam, but it's nice to get into it. But price doesn't really matter for us as a project to grow. It's the adoption of the population that really is what's going to give its value. And then we talk about, then we go way down in adoption, and we realize that for us to succeed, we have to be inclusive. We have to use the hive mind to make this adoptable. We cannot limit ourselves to exclusive clubs. And we also go through the full transparent go through why we chose Ethereum and why we choose multi-chain. And then we end up in this multi-chain aspects and dynamics, which we talked a little bit about today. And I think it's good to watch that just to sort of see the foundation. There's a lot going into this multi-chain dynamics. It's not only the technical aspects of it, it's also community and values and safety, etc. So there's a lot going into that, and there's a million ways to do stuff, and only one is the best. So we invite this kind of discussion to use the hive mind in how to do these kinds of things. And yeah, then there's a little rant at the end, as always, just to give some perspective of what we do. So yeah, guys, let's watch it. I think it has a lot of information, and it's not something that's going to prepare you for the upcoming launch. If you want that, I'm going to have an AMA with DVMB. So DVMB is a core member of the community here, and he has been so kind to share his strategies of wallet setups and everything. So personally, I haven't focused so much on that. I've just focused on everything else. So I'm really interested to hear what he has to say. He's really passionate about it. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to announce it during the day sometime. It's probably going to be tomorrow, GMT +5, something like that. Yeah.
Have you guys thought about the privacy aspect? Because I mean, I can see that you're aiming at adoption, and adoption's awesome, right? And I would love a crypto that can be used daily use as a peer-to-peer, like we were promised in the beginning, right? But one of the problems becomes, and I call it the ability to pay the babysitter, right? If I can't pay the babysitter with my crypto because I'm afraid her boyfriend's going to do analytics on all my addresses and how they link and where my assets are and how much I have, and I just place a target on my head because I have, lots of assets, then it's not practical to use. And that's why I asked you previously about whether you'd looked at integrating into the Cosmos ecosystem, because one of the solutions that I have found that's usable and practical now has been the secret network, where when you, like ETH and BNB are already bridged to the secret network. And so when you bridge ETH into secret or BNB into secret, it becomes secret BNB or secret ETH. It is a synthetic, and it does have therefore bridge risk, but it's at least a usable idea. You could bridge it in and then bridge it out to a different address, and now the link between the two addresses is broken, and so I can create a specific address to pay the babysitter.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of outside the scope of what we wanted to design, because this is a layer 1 problem, specifically the privacy. So I would say there are solutions available. I mean, I know Tornado Cash is no longer viable, at least in the United States, or like you cannot use USDC with Tornado Cash, but crypto meant to be semi-private, so it's up to you how exposed you want to be. There are other viable ways to make privacy work. Like, for example, you can go to a centralized exchange that doesn't ask for KYC, and you can send some coins there and then exchange it between the pairs, buy something else, and then transmit it back to a different wallet. And so nobody will be able to trace your identity that way. So like, for example, you can say USDC goes into, let's say, whatever, MAXC, and there you buy Monero. I don't even know if they trade Monero, so don't take it as my advice, but I could just imagine that somebody could swap their ETH for Monero and then receive it on their Monero wallet, and nobody will know where it come from. So, I mean, that is not something that we're solving with Zen Crypto. Here we're solving basically the onboarding of all of the newbies out there and the no-coiners into crypto, and also teaching people who've been exposed to crypto what really matters, like specifically first principles, self-custody, so on and so forth. So ability to resist the sort of an attack of the institutional crypto gunslingers, if you will, that suck in your economic energy under the pretense that you're an investor in the crypto, where in reality, you don't even hold any coins. So that is the biggest challenge that we're solving. And I think the privacy situation is an issue, and it may be solved, but it is unlikely we can solve it. But we can certainly work with the protocols and, I guess, elements out there that can make things more private without breaking the law, obviously.
Yeah, of course, and it's usable. It's usable with Zen, regardless of whether Zen integrates it. I just was curious if you guys had looked at if and when you do multiple chains, if you looked at being on any of the Cosmos ecosystem side, because they have there's huge following and a huge user base to be tapped. But it seems like a lot of people in the Ethereum side just completely ignore it.
Does Cosmos have an Ethereum compatible EVM? So like, do I need to change the code?
No, right. Like I said, right now, Secret Network is probably one of the biggest used networks built on Cosmos. Luna was on Cosmos, but we know what happened there. But BNB, EVM, and Ethereum are both bridged to Secret, so you can bridge EVM compatible assets back and forth across that Cosmos.
Yeah,
network.
if you don't mind, Jack, send me some information on that to my DM, and I'll research, and potentially we can launch there too. And again, we're omni-chain. So in other words, we will not discriminate the chains, because every chain has an ability to teach people what first principles are all about.
Sure. And I'll try and connect you with Tor Blair, who's basically the kind of the lead over there.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Hey, check out Apart. You mentioned about the zero knowledge proof, right?
ZK, yeah.
Yeah, because I see a lot of different projects they develop the ZK, including the BNB. They launched this a few weeks ago, I think.
Okay, send me some info. I'd love to learn more about it and see how we can somehow make it useful for us too. So for sure, I'm a big fan of ZK, obviously. So as everybody probably should be.
It's interesting what was brought up here with privacy, because what we want to do is spread this network, right? Where we build up this whole network where everybody has their rights stored in their wallets through self-custody. And once that you have those rights of self-custody within your wallet, and that becomes the mainstream, that's our goal, solution, then it's interesting how then other rights could fit in that wallet, such as privacy. It's a very interesting topic, actually.
Yeah, for sure. So I would say we've almost been going for 2 hours. So let's do like another 10 minutes or take a few more questions, and then probably we'll call it the day for the stream, and then I'll give it an edit and put it on YouTube for people to watch. So if anyone else out there who hasn't had a chance to ask me a question on the launch or on the protocol, on the whole idea, or anything what I had for breakfast, by all means, go ahead and jump in.
Hey, Jack, I have a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Good. Okay, so when Zen launches, let's say I get in day one, and I decide to wait 100 days to mint my Zen, let's say Pulse-Chain launches before those 100 days are up, will I still get a copy at the same calculated rate that I would on the Ethereum network?
Yes. What will happen is that during the process of minting, you have a record on blockchain that you are, let's say, on day 50. So you have 50 days to go. If Pulse-Chain launches right there, it should get a copy of the state of the contract. So you will continue from day 50 onward until 100 days, and then you'll be able to mint your Zen on Pulse-Chain or claim your mint. So you claim your C rank first. You start your mint on day one, and then your 100 days is what we call mint term limit. At 100 days, when the time is over, that's where you claim your Zen, or you do a claim of mint, or you simply mint Zen on the day of maturity. Now, I do want to say that anybody who hasn't paid attention, that you have 7 days to claim your Zen at the end. If you do not claim Zen in 7 days, the minting function will be disabled. This is the part of the protocol is described in detail in the white paper if you want more details. But we just wanted to make sure that people are not abandoning the process and they're actually making Zen. Otherwise, we will not have any sort of like hidden repository of Zen that's waiting to be minted and then inflate the supply rapidly. Just people remembering that they need to come back after like a month. So that was the logic for that. So everybody have 7 days to mint it. There are penalties that are progressive. I think it goes something like 1% on the first day, 3% on the second day, 7% on the third day. On the fourth day, I think it's 25. Then it's 50%, and then ultimately becomes 100% penalty where you do not mint anything at all. So that's how that works.
Got it.
Jax,
Thank
I
you.
have questions. So I'm not sure that did you answer anybody about this, or just repeat it again in case if anyone asked this before. So everybody knows that we got the copies from Ethereum Zen, right? And when Pulsechain's launch, Zen start over again. So as the very beginning, there are two types of Zen. So we got a copy, and we got the Zen minted in Pulsechains. So how we how different between two kind of Zen in Pulsechains?
So Pulsechain will have only one copy of Zen. So specifically, once the Pulsechain copies the state of Ethereum mainnet, we do not plan to deploy another Zen contract and start it all over again, because it already has a copy, so there's like really no point. Cool. Anybody else? One more question. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. The only point I could see
Go ahead,
to launching your own contract after the Pulse and disabling the one that was copied is that if there's a lot of liquidity pools already established that are against, say, Ethereum, then all that liquidity is going to get mined by the fixer bot, versus if you just launched your own contract and ignored the one that was copied over, you would avoid that. That would be the only reason I could see to launch your own contract on Pulsechain.
Yeah, but it's kind of against the Pulsechain design, if you will. So Pulsechain was supposed to give you, the way that they describe it, world's largest airdrop. I don't think airdrop is the right word, because it's not an airdrop. Airdrop is usually something that you get for nothing. Here you get a copy or a fork, so it's not really an airdrop. But at the same time, I don't feel like we need to disable the contract on Zen and for Zen on Pulsechain. And actually, we cannot even do it because we will not have any sort of ways to get that done, because we have no admin keys, so we can't delete it. And
yeah, but if it was written into the contract ahead of time, so that when it launched, it recognized that any copy on another network that wasn't, pre-launched by you would just be ignored or irrelevated somehow. I know there's a way to put that in the code.
I know that there's many ways to do it, but I'm actually would be against it, because that implies centralized control. So that implies that somebody has anticipated and controls the future from the past, if you will. So I really like I like it to be designed in a very, very basic way without any sort of future restrictions. So it has to be open source, immutable, on-chain, without admin keys, and no control of anyone. And that's what actually makes, I think, this project so popular and so adaptable by the world outside. So I don't believe in this sort of encoding of logic based on things. And I think for Pulsechain, it's going to be good too, to have the exact copy. If we start to muddy the water and let's say, don't use this contract, it's kind of not a true contract, but it is, right? Because it's a state copy. And yes, there's some idiosyncrasies with the economic energies and pools and bots and whatever else happening on Pulsechain. But hey, it's part of the game. So the Pulsechain, if it has problems, it needs to solve its problems itself. We shouldn't really end up manipulating the code to accommodate. I think it kind of doesn't make sense to do it.
So technically, when Pulsechain launches, depending upon the time frame of the launch, and if it's just going to get a state copy of Zen, it's going to start its global ranking system kind of wherever we're at the moment, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So like if it happens in 300 days, like for the sake of argument and round numbers, then what we will have is an exact state that people will be able to claim their stakes and unstake or whatever, right? So it's going to be just like that.
Can you say what you do when this term strategy?
Can't hear you.
Yeah, TryD, your microphone is toast or your connection is really bad. So feel free to ask your question in the Telegram chat. All right, guys, it's been 2 hours. It's been a pleasure chatting with everyone. And I actually didn't expect to almost having 70 people in the group. Awesome discussion, good questions. Feel free to obviously ask follow-up questions in the Telegram group as well. And we should be able to answer those. By all means, spread the word on Zen that it's coming. We are in the final stretches of an audit. The auditing company told us that I think they're going to give us some sort of results by the September 28th, which is tomorrow. I do expect that they will find some sort of modifications requirements that we need to get done before we launch. It might take a couple of days to get them figured out and done, and then we'll resubmit for the review, which will go even faster. And likely the plan for the launch, and a lot of people requested that, is to happen on the weekend. So we're just going to choose a weekend that's approaching. We'll put up a timer or countdown timer on the website so that people are not surprised when everything is launching, and then we'll just go ahead and launch. All right, thanks everyone. This is the end of this 2-hour Telegram community stream chat. I will do a couple of edits perhaps and post it on YouTube for people to review this conversation later. Thank you all, and have a nice Tuesday.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Good to see you. Thanks for all the questions, inputs.
Later.